Okay, we're trying this again. Had some audio problems the first time I tried this out, and I just want to make sure that they are working now. Seems like everything's good now, and we'll get started. Okay, welcome to Let's Make a Character. This is something I'm trying out. It's a little experiment. I'm going to make a role-playing game character with input from folks out there. Earlier today, I put up polls on Twitter and Google Plus and asked people what kind of character I should make. And the polls were interesting. Twitter was split evenly down the middle between all four choices, but Google Plus had some activities. So let's take a look at what the results were. So I asked people to choose between a bard, a holy warrior, a swashbuckler, and a wizard. And as you can see, the bard came out ahead by a couple of points, so that's what we're going to be working with today. What I'm actually going to be making is a GURPS 4th edition character using the GURPS Dungeon Fantasy. They call it a worked genre source book, but basically what it is guidelines, rules, and advice for building characters and adventures that emulate, classic Dungeons and Dragons, as well as dungeon fantasy video games, all the way back to the classic text-based adventures from 40 years ago, as well as various other influences that the authors have allowed to creep in there. What is great about the Dungeon Fantasy series is that it takes the complex and very extensive character creation rules for GURPS 4th edition and pairs them down to just what you need to run a Dungeon Fantasy game. And then on top of that, it collects them into templates, which let you build characters that fill specific niches in a Dungeon Fantasy campaign. And those end up looking an awful lot like the character classes that you're used to from Dungeons and Dragons. As you can see here, I have the PDF up. I'm just going to scroll through it, and right away we get into templates. So you have your barbarian, the bard, which we're going to be working with, cleric, druid, holy warrior, which is your paladin, basically. The knight is the classic heavy armor, big weapons fighter type. The martial artist is, what you think of with a D&D monk. The scout is basically a ranger without any assumption of them having magic. They are the sneaky outdoorsman type, usually sniping away with a bow or sneaking in with, short weapons. The swashbuckler is your swinging from chandeliers, flashing blades, swishy cloaks, and the agile fighter, as opposed to the big, strong guys like the barbarian and the knight. The thief is pretty self-explanatory. They sneak in to structures that they don't have legitimate access to relieve them of their treasures. And finally, you have the wizard, which is your typical spellcasting Smart guy. Today we are going to be making a bard because that's what the internet told me to do. So we're going to take a look at the bard template. And as you can see, right away it has a point value. GURPS characters are built with character points, and the amount of points that you can have from one campaign to another will vary depending on how powerful the GM wants your characters to be. For Dungeon Fantasy, the default is 250 points, which is sort of in the middle area of your kind of action hero, movie star kind of level. So the assumption is that you guys, your characters are competent and tough and can take on a lot of low level threats, but there are still going to be dangers out there that can challenge them and make them fear for their precious hit points. So what I like to do when I'm starting out making a character from a template in a GURPS book is I just copy the whole template into a text file, or in this case a Google Doc. And some people complain about how GURPS character templates are laid out. They say they're too blocky and too hard to read. Maybe I'm just used to them after think they've been going for over between 15 and 20 years at this point. They've been using this format, so I'm pretty used to it. So I will take the template and I will paste it into a word processor or a text file, and then I'll just start working with it. So the way it's laid out is template starts with your core attributes, which in GURPS there are the 4 core attributes. There's ST, which I guarantee I'll refer to these by other names, but ST or strength, DX or dexterity, IQ I just call IQ because that's easy to do, and HT, which I'll call health. And then there are secondary characteristics. These are the things that are calculated from the main characteristics. So you've got your damage that you do when you're using muscle-powered weapons. You've got how much you can lift. HP is your hit points, like you'd expect from other games. Will is your how strong your willpower is, how well you can shake off a lot of harmful effects that go after your mind, like magic spells or monster powers. Per is perception, and it covers all of your typical 5 senses. FP is fatigue points, which are used up as you expend yourself to do extra effort or forced marches and so on. Then you have basic speed, which is your reaction time. It's how quickly you respond at the start of combat, and it also determines the turn order in combat. Then you have your basic move, which is how many yards you can move in 1 second. Basic move is derived from basic speed. Basic speed is derived from the average, or sorry, the half of the average of your dex and your health. Not that that's important because it's already figured out in the template, which is one of the things that the templates are good for. Now, before I get really digging into the template, I'm going to be using another source for this character that will help speed things up as well, and that is this book. It's Dungeon Fantasy 13 Loadouts. GURPS is one of those games that counts your pennies, or in this case, they list all prices in dollars, which is not necessarily a one-to-one with the U.S. dollar as it exists today. It's just a sort of standardized pricing scheme. But basically, there are a lot of things you can buy for a GURPS character, even if you're keeping it focused on that sort of late medieval, early Renaissance flavor of your average D&D game. So Dungeon Fantasy 13 loadouts, what it does is it goes through and it gives you collections of gear that are useful for all adventurers in a basic kit, and then each of the templates in the Dungeon Fantasy line gets additional kits that are good for speeding up character creation. So I'm going to be using this mostly at the end of the process to give my guy the equipment he needs, because everybody loves having all the right gear at the start of their dungeon crawling career. But I need to look at this ahead of time, because the type of gear that I will have will require certain skills to make the best use of. So if I decide that I'm going to be a sword and cloak bard as opposed to a sword and shield bard, those require different skill selections. So I am going to be looking to be a sword and cloak bard. This guy is going to be. I don't think he's going to be very combat, like melee combat focused, but I do sort of like the idea of the kind of almost swashbucklery bard who's got the cape, and he flips the cape around to distract his enemies while he kind of pokes them with a light fencing weapon. So the thing I need to keep in mind for that is I'm going to be looking for the cloak and small sword skills when I make my character. But we'll get to that when we get to skills. First, we have his advantages to look at. So if we come back to the Google Doc, so every bard gets a few advantages that basically make you a bard. You've got bardic talent, which talents in GURPS are just advantages that give bonuses to collections of skills. And in this case, bardic talent is defined in the Dungeon Fantasy as it's the talent that determines the bard's bard song abilities, how good he is with those. And I'll discuss those in a little bit when we start looking at those. But just for now, know that we have 2 levels of bardic talent. We also have the charisma advantage, which makes him more personable. People react to him better, and he gets bonuses to a few skills. And luckily, the template will tell us what those skills are later. Musical ability, that's another talent that gives bonuses to other skills, typically singing, musical instruments, that sort of thing. And then voice is, it's not technically a talent, but it works kind of the same way. You get bonuses to singing, and to people react better to you if they can hear you. So that's what every bard gets right off the bat. Then we go to bard song abilities. So these are special advantages that bards can take that are part of the bard song power. In GURPS, powers are collections of advantages that are all modified by a particular modifier that gives them usually a discount on how much they cost in return for all following specific rules that will apply to all the advantages. So for Bard Song, it says, Bard song abilities require the Bard to sing or play a musical instrument skill at 14 plus. So I have to have either singing or a musical instrument skill at 14 plus in order for Bard song abilities to function at all. And if I stop singing or playing an instrument, the effects of the Bard song ends. And anything that I do that affects other people only affects people that can hear the music. And if I have any messages or instructions, they have to be hidden in song lyrics. It also says that I'm subject to the constraints of wizardly magic, and then it explains what that means. I have to have mana to work. So GURPS defines mana levels. So if you're in normal mana, everything works normally. If you're in low mana, there are penalties. If you're in high mana, there are benefits. The Dispel Magic spell can cancel my Bard Song effects. And it just gives all the various other penalties and things for being magical. But that doesn't really matter. All I need to know is that the Bard Song power modifier gives a 30% discount to all of the Bard Song abilities, and that's actually already worked into the list of what Bard Song abilities are available. So they are Empathy, Mimicry, Mind Control, Rapier Wit, Speak with Animals, Subsonic Speech, Telecommunication Telesend, which is basically telepathy, Terror, and Ultrasonic Speech. And I get 25 points to spend on these things, and if I can't quite fill out 25 points, I get to put the leftovers into special skills and spells, which we'll get to later on. So taking a look at this, I know that this guy is not going to be... I don't want him to be like, guys rushing in to do the melee combat thing. And in fact, if I go back to the Bard template, it says... the description of it says... You're a magical minstrel who dabbles in a little bit of everything. The roguish pursuits of the thief, the swordplay of the swashbuckler, and the spellcraft of the wizard. So I'm... The bard is a jack-of-all-trades, master of none kind of character. And in fact, a lot of what a bard can do is about helping the rest of the party out. He's a support role, and he's also one of the primary social types. There's, at its core, GURPS Dungeon Fantasy really pares down the social interactions of the GURPS system. Basically, town exists as a place where you sell loot and get more potions, but it's still a role-playing game, so you're still, if you're able to talk to an intelligent monster and, come to an agreement with it, then you don't have to fight it, and you can all go about your business. And the bard is really good at that, especially with things like telecommunication, telesend. So basically what that means is, so I have to, if I'm using that, I have to sing, and the person has to hear me, and I have to hide a message in the song. But basically what telecommunication telesend means is that if I meet all of those requirements, the only person who can understand me is the person that I'm trying to talk to. Anyone else who hears the song will hear something. They'll know that there's a message in there, but it's basically the true meaning behind the words is sort of being sent directly into their brain. That's one way I could go with this guy, and it fits into my budget. It's 21 points. The numbers in square brackets on the template are point costs. I'm not sure if I want to go that way with this guy. I think a better use of my points here would be the empathy ability, which lets me get a read on people and um, helps me know if someone is scared or being evasive. That's only 11 points. And then the other ones I think that I like are mimicry is always fun for mimicry basically lets you mimic any sound that you've heard, so it's part of the whole sonic repertoire of the bard. So if I hear monsters speaking a language that I don't speak, I can still like copy them. So if I think that I heard a hobgoblin say a password to another hobgoblin, then I could try and mimic that. And even if I don't know what it means, hopefully I get lucky. So I think I'm going to take those two. I'm going to take empathy and I'm going to take mimicry. So I'm going to copy those over onto my advantages list. And that brings me up to 18 points out of the 25 that I have to spend. So I'm gonna go with Rapier Wit. So Rapier Wit is basically you say a quip, and it's so cutting, it's so to the point that it stuns the guy that heard it. He's left speechless and in fact unable to act. And if I go over to the full rules and bring that up, because Dungeon Fantasy doesn't completely replace the core rules, it just pares everything down and gives you a good idea of what you really need to concern yourself with. But if I look at Rapier Wit, it says that I'm going to need to use the public speaking skill to activate it. So I'm definitely going to want to have a good public speaking skill by the time I'm done making this bard. But back to Bard Song. So that is 11, 18, 22. So I have 3 points left. I can't buy anything more in the Bard Song list with 3 points. So it says that I put leftover points into special skills and spells. So I'm going to just make a note here that I have 3 points left for that. And we'll get back to that later. Now, back to the Bard template. Now, after the advantages that all bards get, and after choosing Bard Song abilities, then we go to another section of the template that says a further 25 points chosen from additional Bard Song abilities. I think I'm okay with what I got. I'm going to look at what all the other options are. So all the other options, which I've already copied onto my list, is this whole block here. So it's things like improved dexterity, improved IQ, more fatigue points. Fatigue points are good for they power magical spells in GURPS, or at least in this magic system, because GURPS has a lot of them. Dungeon Fantasy uses the one that's been around since the 80s, so it's very D&D like. I can have better reaction time with basic speed, better sense of hearing. I can be attractive, which that is looking sort of on point for this character concept. I can increase my bardic talent. I can increase my charisma. Cultural adaptability, that's important for like dealing with monstrous humanoids who have their own cultures. I'm probably not going to worry about it. Eidetic memory or photographic memory are just different levels of the same idea that I can remember things better. Honest face is a perk, which is like a tiny 1-point advantage that does limited things, but it basically makes people trust me and think that I'm a decent dude. I can take language talent, which makes me learn languages easier. I can take different languages. I can take luck. Luck gives me the ability to reroll dice on a recurring basis. Basically, every hour I can reroll. I can roll a total of 3 times and take the best one. I can increase my musical ability here. No Hangover is another perk. You can probably guess what that does. Penetrating Voice is a quirk that says that as long as I'm not like magically silenced or anything, people will always be able to hear me even over the like din of battle. Signature Gear gives me money to spend on stuff, and that stuff actually has plot protection. So like the GM can't just destroy it. If they steal it, I have to be able to get it back. That sort of thing. I might look at that, but probably not. I don't think this guy is real dependent on any particular item. Smooth Operator is another talent that just makes me even more social guy. Social Chameleon, that is one that I don't deal with a lot, and I'm not exactly sure what that does. So let me look it up in the character book. Okay, so this is one that would be important if we were going to be dealing with like noble people a lot. It says you have the knack of knowing exactly what to say and when to say it around your social betters. You don't take reaction penalties from people who are higher up than you. If you're in a situation where you wouldn't take those penalties anyway, you get a bonus. Yeah, that's not really for me. Wealth. So in Dungeon Fantasy, wealth is pretty much just a measure of how much, what percentage of market price you can sell loot for. And that's neat. I could see that maybe for a different kind of bard, but I think this guy has a reason to adventure. He doesn't have a bunch of money at home, so I think I'm going to stay away from that. So I have 25 points to spend on all this stuff, and as you can see, a lot of it is pretty expensive. Dex is 20 points, IQ is 20 points. Oh, I forgot. Wild Talent down here. Wild Talent is sort of the grab bag advantage. It says, there's a skill that we need that nobody else has. I can use my Wild Talent once a session, and basically I get that skill for one roll at a decent level, and then it's gone. That's neat, but again, I don't think it's for this particular character. First thing I know that I want is I want this guy to be at least above average in appearance. I want him to be at least a little bit good looking. I don't need him to be crazy, so I'm going to go with the attractive level. He's good looking, but he's not a showstopper. What that is going to do is give me some bonuses, some more bonuses on social things. And you'll see through all this, there are a lot of things that are going to be giving bonuses on skills. All of the stuff that bards get for free give bonuses on skills. Appearance is going to give some bonuses on things. The primary thing it's going to do is say that NPCs that find me attractive are going to react to me more positively. Which is great. If I'm in town, and there's, somebody that has a job but maybe doesn't want to work with us, I can, help smooth things over by, giving them a winning smile and being just a little more good looking than most people. So that's a start. So that's 4 points there. I like the idea of having my Bard Song stuff be better, and also Bard Song adds to any of the magic spells that I'll be taking later as well. So I'm going to take one more level of that for 8 points, and I'll fold that back in up here later. Once I'm done spending the points in this section. So that I'm up to 12, so I'm about halfway there. I like the idea of having an eidetic memory. I don't need to go full on photographic because it doesn't really give that much of a boost. Basically, eidetic memory says that if I ever need to remember something and I the player don't remember it, then I can roll and the GM can remind me what I heard or what I read or what I learned earlier. So that's another 5 points. So that's up to 17. So I have 8 points left to spend. I'm going to take Penetrating Voice just because I like the idea, especially since my bard song things that people need to be able to hear me clearly, even in battle. I'm gonna take Penetrating Voice so that is not a problem anymore. I don't have to overcome sounds. So that brings me up to 12, 7, 18. So I have 7 points left. I know I want this guy to have a little more staying power, especially if he's going to be casting spells. I'm going to buy a few more points of fatigue. I'm actually going to buy 2 points of fatigue for a total of 6. Okay, and that leaves me 1 point left to spend. I'm just going to take No Hangover because I think that's funny, and I like the idea of the bard winning drinking contests. In addition to charming the pants off of everyone. So that's all of my advantage points spent. So let me go ahead and fold those in up here. So that goes up like that. And I can erase that. I'm going to put the fatigue points up here under the line where they go, and we'll get back to that later. And then everything else goes up here. Tell you what, I'm actually going to give these their own section, just as a reminder that they get special treatment for that. I'm also going to give a special section for the perks. Not because they work fundamentally differently than advantages, but because they're in a different section of the character's book. If I forget what Penetrating Voice does specifically, I can go look it up. I won't be looking in the wrong place. So that is my advantages done. So the next section on the template is disadvantages. Disadvantages, judging by the name, you probably tell they're the opposite of advantages. And I, again, have to pick from lists. So the first list is 15 points taken from this section. So I know that this guy is definitely outgoing. He likes people. Maybe sometimes he, is a little too friendly, but he just loves everyone. So I'm taking Gregarious, which is 10 points. There are specific rules for it, but mostly it's just this guy loves people, loves being around people, and is overly friendly. The other one from this section that I'm going to take is one that I love to give just about every character, and that's a sense of duty to his adventuring companions, teammates, that sort of thing. Small group of people that he'll always, do his best to protect and help out. It's a party sticky mechanic. It's a thing I like to give to PCs to encourage them not to dick one another over, which I think is very important in a role-playing game because you're playing with your friends, and why would you want to dick your friends over, even in a game? Okay, so moving on from there, now it says another 15 points chosen from this other list. And that list is Curious, Impulsiveness, Overconfidence, or Trickster. I don't like Trickster. It's kind of wishy-washy for my taste. it's a weird one to play with, especially at a minus 15 point thing. It's really it's odd. So I'm gonna take impulsiveness, and I'm going to explain what that little asterisk here means. That asterisk means that this is a disadvantage that has a self-control value. A self-control value is a number that you have to roll equal to or less than any time that you really need to not follow that disadvantage. So in the case of impulsiveness, impulsiveness means that I don't really wait around for everybody to go over the pros and cons. I just sort of go off and do something. And the self-control number means that if it's clearly a bad idea for me to just go off and start doing something, I have to roll 3 dice, 3d6, and I have to roll. So normally the self-control number is a 12, and you mark the self-control number in parentheses after the disadvantage. If I had it at 12, it would be 10 points, but I'm going to take it at 9 or less, and that bumps the price to minus 15 points, which is exactly, funny that, how much I needed to take from that list. So that finishes that list off. So that means if I, want to stick around and wait for everybody else to hash out the plan, I need to roll a 9 or less on 3d6, not to run off and just do my own thing. So that should be fun. 9 or less is still, about a 50-50 shot of making it every time. Finally, there's a third list in the disadvantages section that says a further 20 points from either of the previous 2 lists or this new list. So I know I like Code of Honored Gentlemen, and the book spells out what that means. But basically, it's a code of behavior that I follow. In this case, it's sort of the Victorian gentleman kind of thing. It's like it's all about knowing your place, but also like treating your betters with deference, treating your the people below you with not respect so much, but not abusing the people who are lower station than you. A lot of actual gentlemen did not have this disadvantage, which is why it's worth minus 10 points. But I still need another minus 10 points. So I am going to take post-combat shakes. So what that means is, during combat, I'm fine. But once the fight is over, I have to make a roll. And this is another one. You see the asterisk here. This is another one with a self-control number. I have to roll my self-control number, or just sort of break down, maybe throw up a little after the fight is over, and just sort of be useless for a while. And in fact, I'm going to be very useless, because I'm going to take a self-control number of 6, which doubles the value to minus 10 and finishes off that section. So now I have all of my disadvantages done, and I can clear that off. And just do some alphabetizing here real quick, just because I'm like that. Now we get into skills. Skills are the biggest part of making a GURPS character, because there's a lot of them, and you want a lot of them because they're how you do pretty much everything. So all bards get a whole mess of skills right off the bat. They get acting, and acting is, in GURPS, it's sort of like longer term things. Like, it's the thing that undercover cops have. It's, lets you pretend to be somebody else, or at least pretend to hide your true reactions to things over a long period of time. Generally measured on hours as opposed to minutes. Diplomacy is the ability to get people talking to each other, compromising, and everybody helping everybody else out. It's a good way to get better reactions from people who maybe didn't like you initially. Fast talk, on the other hand, is just bluff, bluster, and lying your way past a problem. Musical instrument, I'm going to want one of those because, again, my bard song requires that. Singing is the same way. Performance is actually acting like you think of stage acting. It's you know, it's putting on a character for the purpose of entertaining people as opposed to the purpose of deceiving them. And then public speaking, remember how I said I wanted that? Well, it's already at a very high level. 16 is very high for anything that's not combat skill. But I might be able to bump that up a little bit. We'll see. So after I take all of those, then I start making choices again. So I choose one of rapier, saber, short sword, or small sword. And remember, I already decided I want small sword because of the equipment package that I'm going to take later on. So I'm going to copy that up here, make it look pretty. Then I can get rid of that line because I don't need it anymore. So then I need one of shield, buckler, cloak. I think it's main gauche. I've never really understood that. But I know I'm going to be taking cloak because we already picked that as well. So copy and copy. Then I can get rid of those again. Now I get to choose thrown weapon, knife. I can have a bow. I can throw things like potion vials or grenades. I'm going to go with thrown weapon knife because I like this guy keeping to a blade theme. And you know, it's kind of badass to pull a knife out and then just throw it into somebody like that. And I can get rid of that. So that was my primary skills section. Those are the really important things for a dungeon crawling bard. All of the social and performance stuff, and then fighting, swords and things. Secondary skills are things that are useful but are secondary. So I'm going to take. I get fast draw, and I get to pick any one. I'm going to have him take fast draw knife. That way I can do the whole, pull a knife out and flick it into somebody before they even know what I'm doing. I could have taken fast draw sword to be able to quickly draw my small sword, but again, this guy is not the rush in and get into melee kind of guy. Even though I'm decent at it, I don't really want to go full on that direction. But I get stealth because everybody needs to sneak through the dungeons. I get current affairs, any type, and I think there's a list of types that are available. I'll check that in just a moment. But that is good for finding jobs in town. There's not always an old guy with a treasure map in the tavern. Sometimes you got to actually hunt up your next adventure hook. Savoir-faire high society is used for hobnobbing with the rich and famous. And then I get this whole list of other stuff that I'm just gonna do. Musical composition, that means I can actually write my own songs. So, brave, brave Sir Robin and all that. So these two are the same as Streetwise, so just copy those in. And you'll notice all of these little dagger and double dagger things, whatever the heck that S thing is. I don't know my punctuation marks. My editor friends are probably going to be chewing me out if they ever see this. But basically, these are noting that there are going to be notes at the end of. These are all the skills that get those bonuses that we had up here, if you remember. And like I said at the beginning, they'll note which ones get which ones. But that's all my secondary skills. So merchant, I'm good at haggling. Propaganda is in Dungeon Fantasy. It's for making posters saying adventurers looking for work. It helps bring jobs to you. Streetwise lets you gather information and all that stuff. Musical composition is my writing. Carousing is going into a bar, and that it's the skill used for drinking contests. It's basically, this is how you get people to like you in a bar. Intimidation is, scaring people. Detect lies, obviously, you can tell what that does. And then now background skills are things that nobody really needs a whole lot of points in, but are still useful to have. And in this case, bards get both heraldry, which is understanding arms and symbols and flags and things, and poetry, because, I can write lyrics that rhyme and don't suck. And then I choose 6 of these skills in this list. So let's take a look at those. So I know a few of these are going to be sort of everyman adventurer things, like climbing, hiking, and observation are sort of everyman dungeon crawling adventurer. Everybody should have one of these. Those are probably a good idea. So I'm going to take climbing because, nobody wants to be the bard who's stuck at the bottom of the pit trap and can't get out. So I'm going to take climbing. I'm going to copy all of its numbers. I'm going to take... I'm okay not being that great at hiking, so I'm not going to take that. I am going to take observation, though, because I think that makes sense for the bard to have. So that gives me 2 of the 6 that I need. I definitely want to be able to dance. It's almost certainly going to be useless 99% of the time, but it's there for flavor. And what the heck, it's only 1 point out of the 250 that I have to spend. I like the idea of the bard being able to patch people up after the battle, once he's done puking in the corner. And I also like the idea of him being able to communicate non-verbally. So I'm going to take first aid, and I'm going to take gesture, which brings me up to 4 of the 6 skills that I need. Copy that there. So I got 2 more. No, I'm sorry, that's 5 of the 6 that I need. So I have one left. So remember the mimicry bard song that I had? So there's a mundane version of that I can take. I'm going to take that. Because that situation that I talked about with the password, that seems like something I might want to be prepared for, even if it's not magical. So that is the background skills done, so I'm going to get those out of the way. Now, special skills and spells. Special skills are skills that have supernatural or extraordinarily, sort of cinematic effects. So you've got hypnotism, which is, kind of mind control without being full-on magic. Musical influence is it's basically all of the bardic music abilities that you would expect from D&D. So things like suggestion and swaying emotions. Musical influence is the overarching skill for all of these other ones. Then finally, I can just choose from wizard spells from the communication and empathy and or mind control colleges. And I think that I think I'm going to look at a few spells. And remember, I actually have 3 extra points to spend in this area, because I had those left over from my advantages section. So I'm going to do that. So magic on my computer real quick. But let's just go to the magic chapter in the book first. So the GURPS magic rules. Spells are skills They're bot-like skills of. So basically, they tell you wizards can take everything out of the GURPS magic supplement. Well, technically, you could just play this with the basic set. There's a small selection of spells. You know, I tell you what. Let's look at. I was looking for GURPS magic on my computer real quick. But let's just go to the magic chapter in the book first. So the GURPS magic rules. Spells are skills. They're bot-like skills. And in order to use them, you spend energy points, which come out of your fatigue, and then make a skill roll. Most spells, in fact, have prerequisites, which are typically other spells. Sometimes they are advantages or other things that you have to have in order to learn the spell. So in order to learn Sense Emotion, I first have to know Sense Foes. And to know a spell, you just have to have spent 1 point on it. It's pretty simple. So I can choose from the spells in Communication and Empathy, and then the spells under, let's go to it, Mind Control. I can choose from those 2 schools. Ooh, Mass Sleep. That seems like a fun one, doesn't it? So in order to get Mass Sleep, I need IQ 13 plus, which I have. I have a 14 IQ. So that's okay. Then I need to know Sleep. So I look at Sleep. In order to know Sleep, I need to learn Daze. So I look at Daze. Right here. In order to know Daze, I need to know Foolishness. In order to know Foolishness, all I have to have is an IQ 12 plus. We already established I have a 14. So let's go back down here to my spells section. So let me just put spells. Okay, so I'm going to learn Foolishness. I'm going to learn Daze. What the heck, I'll throw Mass Daze in there as well. I'm going to learn Sleep. And I'm going to learn Mass Sleep. And, okay, so remember, I need to have at least 1 point in each of these. And I'll explain what levels those give me later. But, so right now I've got 5, so that's 5 points. Let's go back to Communication and Empathy. I like Truthsayer. Truthsayer basically tell you if someone has lied to you. So you can either cast it to see if they've told any lies in the last 5 minutes, or you can do it to ask whether the last thing they said was a lie. So I want Truthsayer. In order to get Truthsayer, I have to have Sense Emotion, and in order to have Sense Emotion, I need to have Sense Foes. So Truthsayer, we're going to put a point in that. Sense Emotion, put a point in that. Sense Foes, put a point in that. Okay, cool. Let's look at what the other ones. Mind Reading might be something to learn later. I've already got Truthsayer, so I have the prerequisites for it. But it's not something I really need right now. Let's go back to Mind Control, just see if there's anything else in there that I wanted to learn. Command. Command might be... Yeah, Command looks good. That's a classic one, right? So in order to get that, I need Forgetfulness. So let's look at Forgetfulness. Okay, so Magery. Magery is normally an advantage by itself, but for bards, it's part of bardic talent. So I have 3 levels of it, so I definitely have Magery 1. I also have a point in Foolishness, which I already got in order to get Daze. So we're gonna add Forgetfulness on there, and then we're gonna add Command as well. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10. So first thing I'm going to do, so the way skills are priced in GURPS, the first level costs 1 point. The second level is a total of 2 points. The third level is a total of 4 points, and then every level after that is an additional 4 points. So right now I know that I can bump all of these up to the second level, and that will get me to 20 of the 23 points that I need to spend for this section. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that all of these spells are hard skills, so that means that the first level that I buy is my IQ -2. But then I add my Bardic Talent plus any additional levels that I bought. So right now, because I have each of these at the second level of the skill, they're going to be IQ -1, which we said that my IQ is a 14. So they're going to be at 13s. But then I add Bardic Talent onto it, so all of these right now are at skill 16. And in fact, since all of them are the same, I'm just going to say at the bottom, I'm just going to note all at 2 points, skill 16. And then I'm going to say, unless noted otherwise, because I am going to be buying one of these up because I can. And I think I'm going to put up Mass Days, because that I think is going to be my go-to. So that will be at a 17. And it's something that will be resisted, so I want to have as high of a skill as possible in order to overcome resistance. So everything else, I'm just going to get rid of all of that because I've got this note at the end. Now that still leaves me with 1 point left in this section. So I'm going to take the Hypnotism skill at 1 point. It's a special skill, but it's just going to go up in my skills section. Basically that means that I can, implant suggestions and do things as long as I have enough time to sit down with somebody and do the whole swing a watch in front of them, you're getting sleepy thing. It doesn't actually require magic. It doesn't require me to spend energy. None of that. So let me just do some quick cleanup because I like making things in order. Okay, so that is that. I'm going to put in including +3 from Bardic, what's it called? Bardic Talent. Just so I remember. Okay. So, all of the skills that have note markers. Anything with a single dagger is getting, so that is things like performance, fast talk, diplomacy. That's all getting a +2 bonus because I have the voice advantage. Anything with a double dagger, which is musical instrument, which I still need to choose what specific instrument it's going to be, singing, musical composition. Those are all getting +2 from my musical ability. Anything with the double S is getting +1 from charisma. So that is just public speaking, I believe. Yes. I didn't take sex appeal. Oh well. If I took the sex appeal skill, that would have gotten a bonus from my appearance. But it still gives me bonuses to make people react to me better, so that's great. Let me look at Bardic Talent again, because I know it gives bonuses to few skills. Oh, nope. It just adds to my bard song abilities. So I thought it would have added to hypnotism, but it doesn't. So that's good. So that is all of the character traits done. Now we can pick his gear. Right gear. And for that, we switch back to loadouts. And first thing, everybody gets a minimal Delver's kit. It costs $100. It weighs 20.5 pounds. But this is all of the stuff that's in your backpack, basically. This is 12 days of rations, or 12 meals of rations. It's your rope. It's a couple of torches. It's a canteen for carrying water. It's a blanket for sleeping under. It's basically everything you need to be out in the countryside and not, completely kill yourself. There's a section on there you can see for alternate SMs. That's for alternate size modifiers, which isn't really important, but just know that it's possible to play somebody that's bigger than a normal human or much, much smaller, like a pixie or a leprechaun or something. But I'll just delete all that. So it's got all of this stuff in there. Then I go to the Bard section. And so it says, choose either Wandering Minstrel or Courtly Bard, and then add a weapon. So I am definitely going Wandering Minstrel. I already established this guy has a reason to adventure. He's not, rolling in the money. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to get rid of all of the size modifier stuff. You can see that it costs, on top of the $100 and 20.5 pounds that I have for my Delver's kit, this adds another $246 and 15.9 pounds. So you might be asking, how much money do I have? I have $1,000 to spend on stuff. The game assumes that I am an unsettled itinerant adventurer, so I get $1,000, and it's basically everything I own is what I'm carrying on my person. So the Wandering Minstrel gets me stuff like a short bow, which I can't actually shoot, but it looks good. It gives me minimal armor. It gets me a small hat to shade me from the sun. Gets me my outfit of clothing, and it gives me a woodwind instrument. So I'm going to go back up to my musical instrument skill, and let me just check the character's book to see if I can just put woodwind on there. A lot of the sample characters have musical instruments, it looks like. Okay, so I'm choosing a special. I have to choose a particular instrument. So I'm just going to go with a flute. I play the flute. And so then I go back down here, and I put, instead of woodwind instrument, I put flute. Is a flute a woodwind instrument? I don't care. It's what I'm doing now. Finally, I go back to loadouts, and I choose the weapon package that I want, which is the sword and cloak, which you can see adds $450 and 6.5 pounds. Get rid of all the stuff that I don't care about. Clean it up a little bit. Okay, so let's do some math. So I have $100 from the Delver's kit, plus $246 for the Minstrel package, plus $450 for the sword and cloak, means that I still have $204 left to play with. Now, how much weight am I carrying is the more important part. So we go back up to the stat line at the beginning, and BL means basic lift. That is the unit of my lifting capacity. If I am carrying 24 pounds or less, I don't have any penalties for being over encumbered. For various multiples of that, I start taking additional penalties. So let's find out how much I'm carrying. I'm definitely carrying more than that, but let's find out how much. So I have 20.5 from the Delver's kit, plus 15.9 for my Wandering Minstrel gear, and another 6.5 pounds for the Sorting Cloak, means that I have 42.9 pounds of equipment. That means that I am at encumbrance. I am not over twice that, so I'm only in the first level of encumbrance. Which I will tell you what I can never off the top of my head. I know it gives me -1 dodge, but I haven't even put dodge down yet, so yeah, 48 would be my light encumbrance. So what it does is, we'll go back up here, it reduces my basic move, it multiplies it by 0.8. So 6 times 0.8 is 4.8, and you drop the fractions. Yeah, it says here, drop all fractions. So my basic move is 4 while encumbered. Now, I also have a dodge, which is an active defense. If somebody's trying to hit me, I will roll against my dodge and try and not get hit. So that is equal to, well, here, I'll show you what it's equal to. Do they put it in here? They don't put it in here. It's equal to my basic speed, dropping any fractions. If I had fractional basic speed, I would drop it. Plus 3. And then it's modified by encumbrance. So I have a base dodge of 9. Because I'm lightly encumbered, I have 8 while I'm carrying all my stuff. So that's that. Finally, I have another active defense because I have a small sword. I can parry with the small sword. And the small sword is a fencing weapon, so it's actually pretty good defensively, which should help keep me alive. Because I'll point out I'm not particularly well armored with this guy, but going the wrong way. So it uses the small sword skill. So I have a small sword. It doesn't give me a bonus to parry, but I'll have my skill to fall back on. But it has an F there, which means it's a fencing weapon, which means it gets special combat bonuses on defense. But basically, let's find my small sword skill. So my small sword skill at the end here, that's my skill number. It's a 14. To find out my parry, I take half of that, and then I add 3. So my parry is a 10. Now, parry is not modified for encumbrance, so my parry is a 10. As long as I can, move myself around and lift that sword up, it's a 10. So I'm good against melee attacks. I have a 50-50 chance with melee attacks. I have slightly less with my dodge. So that is just about everything. I mean, there are other things I could do. I could go through and figure out like how much damage my small sword does and things like that. Hold on. I'm missing something. I almost missed this. The heavy cloak. So basically, cloaks can be used kind of like shields, but it's more your kind of like wrapping and sort of shifting the attack away. You wrap a little bit of the cloak around your arm, and then you can sort of swish it around and be all defensive. But it gives me a defense bonus of 2. However, that's only good against certain attacks. So let's go back and look at the cloak skill. Cloak. This is a skill of using a cloak or a cape as a weapon. So I can use it as a weapon to like bind people or wrap them up in it. But defensively, it works much like a shield. It provides a defense bonus, but it's weak. So pretty much any decent hit is gonna tear through it. But yeah, basically it says I have a block defense equal to my cloak skill, half my cloak skill plus 3, and then I round down. So let's go back and find my cloak skill. My cloak skill is 13, so half of that is 6.5, but I round down. So 6 plus 3. But I then get the defense bonus of 2 for that. You always get it on cloak, because if you're using your cloak, you're always going to have the defense bonus from cloak. But so I have block, so it would be 9, but the defense bonus gives me an 11. So I'm actually pretty good with blocking with my cloak. But remember, it's flimsy, so you don't want to use it against things that are going to do a whole bunch of damage. It's good against very weak attacks. It can hold up against weak attacks because it has a little bit of damage resistance, but not a whole bunch. But so those are my active defenses. You have 3 possible active defenses: dodge, parry, and block. So let me just triple check and make sure there's not anything. As you can see, I've got DR is damage resistance. I've got 1 from my cloth sleeve, so I got 1 on my arms. I've got a leather jacket. That gives me another 1 on my arms and 1 on my torso, and then I've got leather pants. So this guy's a rock star. He's wearing a leather jacket and leather pants. That's pretty awesome. I don't have a whole lot of armor. Remember how I said I didn't want this guy to be Mr. Melee guy? That's why. So looking at him, yeah, he's kind of a jack. I mean, he's kind of a second stringer. He's a support guy. He's the in interrogating, somewhat. He's kind of scary. He's got intimidation. He's got detect lies. I think this guy. Oh, he does have interrogation. I need to figure out how much that was. Let me go back to the Bard template. Another good thing about having the templates is I can go back and reverse engineer when I screw up. Interrogation is here, so it's going to be the same as his merchant skills. So just copy intimidation. He's got detect lies. I think this guy. Oh, he does have interrogation. I need to figure out how much that was. Let me go back to the Bard template. Another good thing about having the templates is I can go back and reverse engineer when I screw up. Interrogation is here, so it's going to be the same as his merchant skills. So just copy that. So yeah, he's good at interrogating people. As far as combat goes, I would not put him up against. He could go up against goblins and kobolds and things like that, no problem. He's not going to be going up against anything in armor, really, because I'm only doing with the small sword. It does my thrust damage plus 1, and thrust is this number. So I'm basically doing 1d6 flat of damage. Anybody with even 3 points of DR, I'm just on average I'm not going to get through. Or a half a point will get through. So this guy is not going to be the combat monkey. I have got this fatigue bonus up here, so I'm going to fold that in. He has a decent amount of pep. He can keep running for a while with this extra fatigue points. He's very perceptive. He's very willful because he is very smart. Those two are based on IQ. He's pretty graceful. He's he's healthier than your average dude. he's stronger than your average dude. He's, he's an action hero, but he's sort of the, action hero who's more of the, hold on, I've heard about this kind of guy. But I would totally play this guy. This guy would be, I think, a lot of fun. I definitely see him being the guy who gets people into trouble, and then once everyone else has cleaned up the trouble, he's sort of, he doesn't take to it too well. But he'd be a lot of fun to play. I think he's got a lot of good social skills. So I'd probably be looking for opportunities to draw out more of the social side of a dungeon campaign. But yeah, so that is my first character made on Let's Make a Character. If you're watching this later, thanks. If you like it, I'm going to try and do these weekly if I can. So next week I'm going to try and do some more polls during the week to get to figure out, like, first, what game am I going to do? Then what kind of character am I going to do? And then maybe I'll start asking even more questions, more specific questions from there. But if you want to be able to give me feedback on that, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Paul Stefko. If you like the show and you want to support it, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Paul Stefko. And until next time, thanks for watching, and have a good one.